What's the biggest mistake organizations make after launching a new process? They think the hard work is done. The rollout happens, the training wraps up, everyone's excited about the shiny new workflow, and then crickets. 6 months later, people are back to their old habits. Workarounds have crept in, and that amazing improvement project becomes just another initiative that didn't stick. If you've been following this series, you know we've covered finding the real problems behind broken processes and designing solutions that actually work for real people. Today, we're tackling the final piece of the puzzle: how to keep those improvements alive and thriving long after the initial excitement wears off. Because here's the truth: real process improvement isn't a launch, it's a lifestyle. And if you want change to stick, you need to build sustainability into the DNA of how your team operates. Let me start with why even well-designed processes decay over time. It's not because people are lazy or resistant to change. Systems naturally drift, and there are predictable reasons why this happens. First, staff turnover means new people join who weren't part of the original design process. They don't understand the why behind the workflow, so they default to what feels familiar. Second, tools get updated, breaking parts of your carefully crafted process. Third, new priorities emerge that shift attention away from maintaining the improvements you've made. I've seen teams abandon perfectly good processes because a software update moved a button and no one updated the documentation. I've watched new hires create shadow processes because they weren't properly onboarded to the improved workflow. These aren't failures of character, they're failures of planning. The solution is to treat sustainment as part of your rollout strategy, not an afterthought. When I design process improvements, I immediately start planning the maintenance rhythm. This means scheduling quarterly retrospectives before the process even launches. It means assigning process owners who will champion the workflow long-term, not just project managers who move on to the next initiative. I create what I call living documentation that evolves with the process. Traditional documentation gets written once and forgotten. Living documentation has built-in review cycles, feedback loops, and update triggers. When someone spots a gap or improvement, there's a clear path to evolve the process rather than work around it. Here's a practical example from a team I worked with recently. They launched a new client intake form that worked beautifully for 6 months. Then, usage dropped dramatically. When we investigated, we discovered that new team members hadn't been trained on it, and the link had gotten buried in their communication channels. The fix was simple. We added the form training to their onboarding checklist and pinned the link in their main collaboration space. Usage rebounded immediately. But the real lesson was building these checkpoints into our sustainment calendar from day one. Now they have monthly pulse checks, specifically designed to catch these kinds of drift patterns before they become problems. This brings me to the second strategy: creating rituals that reinforce change. One-time training sessions create awareness, but rituals create habits. I help teams build lightweight practices that keep process improvement alive in their daily work. One of my favorite examples is a support team that starts every Monday with a 10-minute workflow warm-up. They share one tip, discuss one tweak, and celebrate one process win from the previous week. It sounds simple, but this ritual has created a culture where everyone feels ownership over their workflows. They catch small issues before they become big problems, and they continuously evolve their processes based on real experience. Another team implemented monthly process pulse meetings, where they asked 2 questions: what's working well, and what feels weird? The language matters here. Weird is less threatening than broken, so people are more honest about pain points. These sessions have surfaced dozens of micro improvements that collectively made a massive difference in their efficiency. The key is making these rituals feel valuable, not bureaucratic. They should solve real problems and generate actionable insights, not just checkboxes on a sustainability checklist. Now let's talk about one of the most important aspects of sustaining change: how to handle drift when it happens. And it will happen. The question isn't whether your process will evolve, it's whether that evolution is intentional or accidental. I track drift by comparing current behavior to the intended workflow. I interview users about what they've changed and why. I look for patterns in the workarounds people create. But here's the crucial part: I don't assume all drift is bad. Sometimes people modify processes because they've discovered something better. Sometimes drift reveals insights that lead to significant improvements. I once worked with a team that stopped using a shared project tracker and switched to managing everything through group chat. At first glance, this looked like non-compliance. But when we dug deeper, we realized the chat was actually faster, clearer, and more collaborative than the tracker. Instead of forcing them back to the old system, we redesigned the tracker to incorporate the strengths of their chat-based approach. The result was a hybrid solution that gave them the benefits of both structured tracking and real-time collaboration. Adoption skyrocketed because we treated their drift as innovation, not rebellion. This mindset shift is crucial. When teams know that their adaptations will be heard and potentially incorporated, they're more likely to suggest improvements rather than just work around problems silently. Let me show you a practical framework for building this kind of sustainment into your process improvements. I call it the Sustainment Calendar Sprint, and it's designed to be done right after your initial rollout. Gather your process owners and frontline users together. Create a shared calendar or timeline that covers the next 12 months. Start by asking the fundamental question: what will help this change stay alive? Then, schedule your sustainment activities. Plan retrospectives every quarter, not just in the first few months. Assign specific ownership for each check-in. Don't assume someone else will remember to do it. Build in refresh cycles where you update documentation, retrain new team members, and communicate wins across the organization. Create a visibility plan that keeps the improvement top of mind. This might include dashboard updates, success story sharing in team meetings, or simple reminders in your communication channels. The goal is to make the improved process feel normal and valued, not special or temporary. Most importantly, schedule time to capture and act on the insights you gather. There's nothing more demoralizing than providing feedback that disappears into a void. Build clear feedback loops where observations turn into actions, and actions get communicated back to the team. Here's what this looks like in practice. One team I worked with created a quarterly process health check where they review metrics, interview users, and identify one small improvement to implement. They also scheduled monthly shout-outs where they celebrate examples of the process working well. These simple rituals have kept their workflow improvements fresh and relevant for over 2 years. The outcome of this approach is a sustainment calendar with clear checkpoints, a rhythm of reflection and reinforcement, and most importantly, shared commitment to keeping change alive. Teams that build this kind of maintenance culture see dramatically higher adoption rates and longer-lasting improvements. Let's talk about measuring sustainment success. Traditional metrics focus on initial adoption, how many people use the new process in the first month. But sustainment metrics look at consistency over time. Are people still using it 6 months later? Has the quality of outcomes improved? Do new team members adopt it naturally? I track leading indicators like engagement in feedback sessions, suggestions submitted for improvements, and proactive problem reporting. These signals tell me whether the team feels ownership over their process or just compliance pressure. I also measure adaptation quality. When teams modify processes, are the changes improvements or regressions? Are they documenting their innovations or hiding them? Teams with healthy sustainment cultures iterate openly and share their discoveries. One of the most powerful metrics I use is what I call process confidence. Do people trust that their workflow will continue to evolve and improve? Teams with high process confidence report issues quickly, suggest improvements actively, and onboard new members effectively. They see their processes as living systems they own, not rigid rules they follow. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. What happens when leadership changes or new priorities emerge? These are the moments when process improvements often get abandoned, even when they're working well. The best defense against this kind of disruption is making your improvements obviously valuable and deeply embedded in daily work. When a process saves people time, reduces frustration, and produces better outcomes, it becomes harder to abandon. When team members are actively involved in maintaining and improving the workflow, they become advocates who can articulate its value to new leadership. I also recommend creating what I call improvement artifacts, concrete evidence of the positive impact your process changes have made. This might include before and after metrics, user testimonials, or case studies that show clear business value. These artifacts become powerful tools for protecting your investments when organizational winds shift. Documentation also plays a crucial role here. Not just the how-to guides, but the why documentation. Capture the original problems you were solving, the design decisions you made, and the results you achieved. Future teams will thank you for this context when they need to understand or evolve your work. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. I worked with a marketing team that had developed an elegant content approval workflow. It reduced review time by 60% and virtually eliminated revision loops. But when a new marketing director joined, they wanted to implement their own process from their previous company. Because the team had documented not just their workflow, but the problems it solved and the value it created, they were able to have a productive conversation about the benefits of their current approach. The new director was impressed by the data and the team's ownership of the process. Instead of scrapping everything, they incorporated a few elements from their previous experience to make an already good process even better. This is what sustainment success looks like. Not rigid adherence to original designs, but thoughtful evolution that preserves value while embracing improvement. As we wrap up this series, I want to emphasize that sustaining process improvements is fundamentally about culture, not procedures. You're not just maintaining workflows, you're nurturing a mindset where continuous improvement feels natural and valuable. This means celebrating when people surface problems instead of hiding them. It means treating process adaptation as innovation rather than deviation. It means building rituals that reinforce good habits and create shared ownership over how work gets done. The most successful teams I've worked with understand that their processes are never finished. They're always listening for friction, always looking for opportunities to improve, always ready to evolve. They've built sustainment into their DNA. Your homework from this final video is to create your own sustainment calendar for a recent process improvement. Schedule those quarterly retrospectives, assign process ownership, build in feedback loops and refresh cycles. Most importantly, start treating process improvement as an ongoing capability, not a one-time project. Process improvement that sticks doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. When you build sustainment from the beginning, when you create rituals that reinforce change, and when you treat drift as data rather than failure, you create improvements that compound over time instead of fading away. The work of making work better never really ends. It just gets more intentional, more collaborative, and more human. And that's exactly how it should be. If this series has helped you think differently about process improvement, I'd love to hear about it. Share your sustainment wins, your ritual experiments, and your drift discoveries. Because the best way to sustain improvement culture is to keep learning from each other. Thanks for joining me on this journey through human-centered process improvement. Now go build something that sticks.